Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt Lane, and welcome back to another episode of Bloodborne Bosses, one of the last one in the series. It has been a long ride and a fun ride for me personally. I don't know for any of you watching, but it's been fun for me. This is one of the last bosses, or it could be the last boss, depending on what you do. Now, it really should not be necessary to say this at this point of the game, but just for disclosure, spoiler, if you don't want to hear how to get the secret final boss, spoiler. So there are these items known as the third of the umbilical cord. And if you do not use them, then this will be the final boss of the main game. However, if you have found 3 out of the 4, there are actually 4 in the game you can get. You just need 3 to make this happen. If you found at least 3, and you make sure to consume them or use them, whatever terminology you want to use, before going into this battle, I cannot stress that enough, it has to be before you go in here, then this will not be the last boss. When you beat this one, it will automatically go into the second one. That's right, you're going to have a double boss battle. But do not fret if you die. It's not like a automatic game over and like, well, sucks to suck. No, you will have multiple times, and you won't have to beat each boss again each time. Like, if you make it to the second one, then that first one is forever done, and then you will only fight the second one. But we'll get to the second one in another video. For this video, we're just going to talk about Gehrman the First Hunter. And let me say, this freaking soundtrack for this boss, oh my gosh. I'm tempted just to let the music play and just let you figure it out from there. Maybe it'll inspire you. The music is just so beautiful. It aligns very well storyline wise with kind of what's going on here, because even though it's a boss, which typically in most games like this, most situations, I know there are some that are not, but most situations a boss tends to not be a good guy. If you are playing a game where you are a protagonist, it's just kind of how it is. Most of them's not, especially when you play a game where up until this point every single boss is something that's a beast or trying to kill you or something bad. But Gehrman is actually not. Is not the case at all. It is much more complicated than that, and we could go into the lore, but that's not really the point of these videos. I'm just kind of going to scratch the surface of it just because I love this music so much and its great symbolism and sorry, geeking out. But into the nitty-gritty, because as we normally try to do, these videos need to be short and simple. When you go into the garden area, and as I said earlier, you need to use the umbilical cords before you do this. Otherwise, Gehrman's going to be the last boss. You can go in the area, but do not talk to him unless you're going to do that. If you want him to be the final boss, then go ahead and talk to him. Otherwise, make sure you use those umbilical cords before you talk to him. When you approach him and start his dialogue, he will say a few things that will give a little insight to some lore, and then he's going to give you a choice whether to submit your life or to refuse. This is one of the choices that can alter how your endings are going to be. Obviously, if you submit your life, the game's going to end there. You're not going to fight him at all. There's not going to be a boss battle here. It's going to have a certain ending. If you refuse, then that's where your boss battle is going to happen. If you've made it to this point of the game, you know how much of a pain it is to fight a hunter in the first place. So imagine when they finally give a boss bar to one, he is no pushover, and do not let that wheelchair fool you. It is very much a Yoda kind of thing going on here. To where, man, when he gets out of that chair, he's suddenly a lot more spry. And that scythe is way bigger than anticipated. I'm not sure where he was hiding that this whole time. Now, I wish there was a gimmick or a cheese to this boss that I could say, kind of like with Bloodstar Beasts of staying left, or a variety of bosses that have these specific gimmick that you can kind of cheese them if you need to. This one, not really, other than get good. Now, the best advice that I could give would be to say, if for some ungodly reason you have not figured out how to parry by this point of the game, then you need to make that your mission before fighting this boss. Or if you've died to him a million times, then go somewhere in the main game and just practice parrying, because that's going to be a big helpful tool to use against this boss if you're having troubles with him. He's very fast. He has a few movesets, not a ton. at least not in the first phase. Some of it will change as it goes, but the good thing is it kind of sticks to certain moves and phases. So you can learn the moves over time. You might die multiple times before really getting the hang of it, but he does repeat most of his stuff, and most of them telegraph fairly well beforehand. The problem is he's very quick, so it's not exactly easy to dodge. The timing is going to be quite essential here. But really the only other thing you want to do to even the odds other than learning parrying is going to be bring in some bolt paper, some fire paper, whichever you prefer, because it's not really going to matter in this instance. It's both going to do about the same, so I guess whatever color you like to look at. This could be said with any of the bosses in this game, but one thing that will certainly help if you haven't already been doing it is to dodge towards his attacks as opposed to away from him. Once you get him roughly around half health and lower, it's going to enter phase 2. Now, he's going to pretty much charge up like a friggin' Super Saiyan and all hell's going to break loose. You have a slight problem with his gun in this phase. You need to make it your mission not to get shot. A lot of people get confused out the gate when this happens. If you get shot at all in his second phase, it automatically stuns you into a parry mode. Regardless if you were attacking, regardless if you were healing, it doesn't matter. It's going to make you parryable. So if you didn't previously know that and you were trying to figure out why you kept getting parried, that's why. Don't let that gun hit you in the second phase. Outside of his normal, just pure dickery and quick movements, he does have an AoE in this phase that he can do pretty much whenever he wants. I've actually had one playthrough where he did it way more times than necessary and it got really old fast. But it's very much telegraphed, so you obviously know when it's coming because he starts to float and you're like, okay, well, he is hovering. I guess something is about to happen. The biggest attack to look out for in this phase is going to be a wind-up attack to where it's a very long combo once he starts, and he will do a hook. So his first attack will hit, but then he will reach behind you and try to hook you forward. So it's almost a double dodge that needs to happen. So just because you missed the first one, you need to get ready to time your dodge yet again. Otherwise, if you don't, he's going to kill you and just say, hey, accept your death and get good. He also has one floating attack that, for whatever reason, decides to show up at random times in his second phase to where he will just hover high in the air and then do a ranged attack to where he slices his scythe and it causes like a kind of a wave of energy or whatever it is to come towards you. Now, it only comes in the direction he swings, so it's easily avoidable. But it is something to look out for. That's really it for this boss, though. Most of it really involves just getting good at the game, which tends to be what happens in these final bosses of these games. They don't pull a whole lot of punches. But again, that's really it for this boss. If you just make sure that you learn to parry really well and really quick on your timing by this point, make sure to bring bolt paper, fire paper, something to give you some extra damage. Watch out for that freaking hook attack that will get you all the time. Make sure just to avoid the AoEs if possible, and then get in and get some attacks. And above all else, I know this is going to sound weird, but just be patiently aggressive. It's a weird statement, but it'll make perfect sense once you play this boss a few times. If you make sure to do all these things, you'll have no problems. Well, you might still have problems, but it might be easier to take down Gehrman the First Hunter. That's it for today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for anything about anything. I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this game or anything about it. And make sure to tune in for the next episode as we cover the last boss of the game, known as the Moon Presence. As always, thanks you guys for watching, and we will see y'all next time.